If you can hear me, clap your hand. All right. So I want to welcome you to our annual Southwest Seattle Historical Society member meeting. Thank you all for coming. My name is Marcy Johnson. I am lucky enough to know most of you, but I am the president of this organization this past year, and I will be running again for elections, which we will have shortly. There's everybody, Joe McDermott. Hi, Joe. Welcome.
Hi, Marcy.
So we've got all kinds of people today, and I think the first thing we want to do is I'd like to bring up our current secretary, Vice President, Tia Hallberg, who will have a short presentation on membership. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to pass around the agenda, so you can probably take one, and there should be enough for everyone for today's meeting, so you'll know what to expect. Yeah. And I could say Tia's been on our board a long, long time, and a trustee, then a secretary, and this year she's running for, and then vice president, now she's going to run for secretary. Come on,
Yes, I'm running around the board like all of those who were here before me, following in their footsteps. So I'm going to introduce to Vicki Brewer, who it's, where'd you go, Vicki? Oh, wonderful to bring her back in my life, and she's so active on the board. But anyway, Vicki is a member and a volunteer. She's presently acting as the membership coordinator, and she heads our membership committee. And the members on that committee are Roseanne Tibbetts and newly myself, vice president. So Vicki's worked in the business community for many years. I first knew her when she hired as president of the Washington State Dairy Products Commission. And she's worked for the National Alliance of Businessmen and Poncho, which is patrons of the new civic and charitable organizations, and now a fundraising part of the Seattle Foundation. So she's joining our meeting today and asking members to reflect on the myriad impacts our membership has on individuals and on our community. As a whole, it's an organization that honors the history of Southwest Seattle, the birthplace of Seattle. And so we'll start talking about the importance of membership and introduce Vicki. Thanks.
Can you hear me from here?
Up front.
No,
Okay.
up front. Hi, it's great to see so many people. I've never been to a membership meeting before, but I'm seeing some faces that I've seen before, and of course some new faces. And I think that most of you have been members for a long, long time, but I'm happy to say that today, because of the fabulous gala, we have 3 new members. Hey, so please stand up. Let me introduce you, Tamsin Spengler. Craig Steen. Esther, where are you? Is it here? Deeds, yeah, Esther Deeds. Yay! And if there has to be anyone here that's not a member.
And Mike and Jen.
We filled out the form and turned it in, but maybe it didn't get processed, so.
Did you give it to?
It's in your box.
Oh, in my box. Sorry. If there is anyone here that is not a member and would like to join, I have more of these forms, so this is a chance. But I've been very impressed by this association and the wonderful work you've been doing as a historical society, and I'm very honored to be a part of it. As I said, I've only been a member for a while, and I've been working with Clay. He's amazing, as you all know, and very multi-talented. I've just been volunteering a couple hours a week, processing the correspondence to you, the myriad different kinds of letters that need to be sent out. But now we've got this wonderful core committee of Tia and Roseanne Tibbetts, who maybe you met if you participated in the Halloween porch celebration during Halloween for the kids and their families. She was very instrumental in that. So we're thinking about getting together and exploring new ways to improve the lives of the members that we already have, and also look to a way to gain new members. So I took a course online from the Museum of Liverpool and learned a lot of interesting things about increasing membership and the importance of membership, and it came away with the idea that it's not so much what the perks are and what you get as a membership, but it's what's in our hearts and the part that we can play to continue with the historical birthplace of Seattle we have here in Seattle. It's amazing. Really, what a gift. So what I wanted to do today was hand out a paper. Let's put that here again. And some fabulous Post-its. This is what they did at the museum in Liverpool, which is, I don't know if you know or not, but it's an amazing, huge museum that's, I'm trying to incorporate some of the things that they did, but they passed out Post-its and asked people to write down any ideas that they may have for to continue our organization. And some of the ideas were to write down would be things that you like about the membership, membership communications, the perks that you're aware of, what you think about honorary memberships, the different membership levels, and different activities. And what they suggested that they do, and I hadn't been here before, that you write these down and put them on the wall, and you have all these things on the wall, and then we can all look at them and see them. So I thought what I'd like to do is hand out the Post-its, and then during the meeting you might write them down and just put them on that, and then I can pick them up at the end. Some of you who went to the gala did see this, and I was inspired by the SAM brochure to start this one, where some folks agreed to have their pictures taken and put in here, and I asked them what they would like to say. And was hoping to get different levels. I couldn't find a family with children yet, but maybe something later on. But Ron and Beth Aaron agreed and wrote, our family membership helps us to be a part of and to connect with our community, keeps us updated on the Historical Society's many local events. Jean Manwaring, when I talked with her, said, I believe the Historical Society plays a prime role in preserving the unique history of our Seattle area for us all to enjoy today and in the future. She felt very strongly about that. Roseanne, our other member of the membership committee, wrote, membership's important to me. It's a gateway for the past, present, and future histories of our Duwamish Peninsula. And then, due to a short period of time that we wanted to do this, I said, I'll put my husband and I in. And so that's my husband, Bob, and I. And Bob really qualifies because he grew up here, went to all the schools. So he's great. Our membership gives us a unique opportunity to play a role in the museum activities and collections that access stories of our Pacific Northwest founders and subsequent generations. And when I was taking that course, people were encouraged to participate in feedback. And just wanted to let you know the majority of people who took that course in museum people put collections at the top reason for a historical society, so like that. So I think that's it. I hope I didn't take too much time. I'll pass it out and the posters, and I have wonderful little pencils if you need them. They're not even golf pencils, they haven't erased them. Thank you. Thank you, Vicki, very much.
Just want to check quickly. Has everybody signed in?
No.
And I said hello to Joe, but I want to make sure everybody knows that this is Joe McDermott, our King County Council member who's speaking today. So spit up my manners here. This is the time, we have a business section here, so we're going to be electing our new officers, new slate of officers, and our new board of trustees, some of the positions, not all of them, because they rotate. We have 6 trustee positions, and each group of 3 ends at a different year. So some positions end at the end of this 215, another 3 the end of 16 and 17 and so on. So I want to bring up my election nomination committee, actually. Bonnie Grumlich and Dorothy. Where's Dorothy? There she is. So Bonnie Grumlich is a board member. She'll be speaking a little bit more in a few minutes. And Dorothy, also a board member. And the three of us then talk to prospective candidates to become new board members and put together a slate. And we think we have a pretty good one. You want to say anything, Bonnie? Or?
Let's see, I've been on the board about 2 years. I'm a transplant plant from the south. My husband's in the Coast Guard, spent most of the area. I also have a background in sport cultivation. Talk louder? Can't hear me? Okay. And I just really enjoyed being on the board, and it's a great fit for me, and anything I can do to encourage the preservation and advocacy and education of our written and oral and architectural history in the area. So that's why I'm on the board, and I enjoy being part of the nomination committee.
And Dorothy.
And I'm Dorothy. I started as a volunteer, and they tricked me and said we had a job to tempt me with, and I've been loving functioning as the chair of our Words Writers in West Seattle, which I advertise when I can. That means once a month at Barnes & Noble in Westwood Village. We finished 2 years of doing that once a month. And I've learned so much about West Seattle. I'm a transplant from Spokane, places I can consider myself from West Seattle from this point on, right?
So Bonnie is running for a one-year position because, excuse me, as she mentioned, her husband's in the Coast Guard. He's actually Admiral Rick Grumlich, and he is the commander at the Elki Lighthouse. So if you've not been to the lighthouse in order to meet Bonnie there and Commander Grumlich, it's an honor and a privilege to do so. They're great people, and we're glad to have them. But Bonnie's running for a position, so she could not run the elections. As am I. I'm running for the president's position again, so I will not be participating in the election. But Dorothy, who's a current trustee, will be, and she'll be helped by Tasha Miller. Tasha, want to come on out? Thank you. Tasha's also a board member. You want to say a couple words?
Yeah, I've been on the board for a year now. I've also been in West Seattle just over a year now, so play caught me right as I moved. But I have my bachelor's in historical anthropology, and I've been working with universities in both collections, archives, and just library work in general.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to you two to
All right, very good.
officiate.
We're really happy to have a number of you here, and then that makes me happier to have you here to help me count, because it would be a help. I'm going to present to you the slate of officers, which include, as Marcy said, herself as running as president for the next year again, Vice President Peter Nelson, Treasurer Ron Brandt, and Secretary Tia Hallberg that you've already met. Trustees for one opening. As she said, Bonnie is running for one of the one-year slots, and the other one is open, so we need nominations for that today. We have three-year slots, and Crystal Dean is on the slate for that. These are our new members to our board, Jenny Bodner and Esther Armstrong. So would each of you now, and I'll call you by your first name, stand for just a moment and say a few words about your background, your intent for the office, or whatever. So
Maybe we
Marcy,
can come in front.
pardon?
Maybe we can just all come up front.
Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot we had a videographer.
Why don't we all just come up front together?
That was great, yes. You can stand in order so people recognize you that way.
It's all this dish.
Okay. I know, Marcy, maybe I'll volunteer.
Maybe you go to that.
The
This
office.
is like ducks in a gallery. So my name's Marcy Johnson, and I've been the president, I think, for 3 years or something. I've been on the board for a number of years. I think I came on with Elliot Cowden and Arlene Wade as my mentors, both of passed away. But I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from the board members in the interim, some of which are here today, and past presidents. And I just am willing to and wanting to continue the work that we're doing. 3 years ago, we hired an executive director, so that shows some of the growth. We didn't have the money to hire another staff, and we're happy to be able to do that, keeping our museum manager. We have a bookkeeper, Diane. Hi, Diane. You want to stand up and just be recognized, Diane? Diane Martin. Secretary. She's our bookkeeper, and she takes minutes at all our meetings, which is really helpful. And then I don't see Irene in the room today. Irene is our gardener. She comes and cleans up everything. Yeah. So that's who I am, and I'm pleased to be here.
Bonnie Bromley, you just heard the things, so I'll pass it on.
Hi, I'm Ron Aaron, and gosh, I met Clay at the West Seattle Chamber of Commerce, and he convinced me to get involved. But, you know, really, I've been sort of aware and involved from way back. My nieces went to Alki Elementary, grew up with Aurora Bennett, and I'm through my sister-in-law and hung out with John Bennett and Craig Johnson and a lot of people that have been involved over the years. So I was fortunate enough to be laid off from, I'm a corporate refugee, and no longer had to travel extensively, so I have time to devote to being the treasurer for this great organization.
Yeah. Great statement. Well, of course, I came to the organization through my family and my mother and several generations of West Seattle rights. I'm invested in preserving the history and definitely in carrying out our mission and making sure that the organization has a nice solid foundation so that it lasts into perpetuity. And I had a whole statement about what I would abide by as secretary, but I'll save you all that and just let you know I'm very sincere in my involvement. And after learning more about Marilee and Carol and Clay and Marcy, my gosh, it makes only sense to continue right now for this year. So thank you.
I'm Peter Nelson. I was born and raised here in West Seattle. I grew up on Admiral and 49th. I have studied, I'm an alumni of South Seattle Community College, where I studied under Judy Bentley. She inspired me quite a bit in doing historic preservation and research into history. I got my degree in Pacific Northwest history and Native rights and culture at the Evergreen State College. I also got my master's degree at the University of Washington in the museology program, which is the study of museums. It's one of the oldest of its kind programs. I also worked with MoHI in a volunteer kind of situation, and I'm also right now an exhibits developer at the Museum of Light. I've been volunteering to some capacity with the Historical Society for many years. My father, Randy Nelson, introduced me to the program and for the society been doing walking tours and really been very interested in doing history work for the West Seattle area. And definitely with my generation coming up of West Seattleites coming up and being community leaders and business owners and starting families in the area, I'm really, really, really honored to represent them as a vice president for the society.
And you have a great speaking voice.
Oh.
That's good. I couldn't top that. I'm Jenny Bodner. My maiden name is Richardson, and I grew up here in West Seattle on Beach Drive with one of my heroes in life, Ada Hallberg, who really instilled in me a lot about history. And my grandparents also were here. My grandfather was the executive vice president for Nettleton Lumber Company. That was down on Harbor Avenue. And both my parents went to West Seattle High School. I graduated from Kennedy High School and recently just moved back to the area. And I've been involved in a lot of, wherever I've lived, I've gotten involved in the community. I believe that it's important to be a part of your community. I'm so grateful to be back here. And I'm just looking forward to participating and seeing what I can do to help contribute to this great society.
I'm Esther Armstrong, and I'm here by the chance of going and visiting the Log Cabin Museum and hearing wonderful stories from Dave and from Clay. And I work for Nordstrom in the technology area, and my role is definitely not technical. I learn about building relationships and telling stories, and I'm also a writer, and the beauty of the history and everything that made West Seattle what it is really, really exciting to me to be part of that. So, just happy to be included.
Kristen,
I'm
can you move?
sorry. My name is Crystal Dean. I have lived here about just over a year on Alki. It was always a dream to live in West Seattle, and we finally made it come true. I just recently got involved with the society. I'm on the Gala committee, which was very successful. Just wanted to just volunteer a couple days a week in the Log Cabin Museum and hooked up with Clay, and we all know how that goes. Started on the committee, and the rest is history. Just started volunteering everywhere I could. Just waited for the emails from Bethany, where can I volunteer? Did the summer movies, fell in love with it, the outdoor movies, and just really trying to get my feet wet anywhere I can. So the opportunity to be a board member, I jumped at it because I want to be more involved. I want to learn more about the history, let people know about the history, how wonderful our history is, Log Cabin Museum and our society, and just get involved and do more. So I'm going to commit to volunteering, staying on the next year's Gala committee. I have a couple weeks off, and then just going forward with that. So I'm very proud to be able to represent with that next year. So thank you.
I'm just going to add to what Crystal said, because I think that outreach is one of the jobs of someone who's a board member of probably any organization, but it's really to be proactive and to talk about your organization and to invite others to join in, and appreciate all the things that people said. And I'm really looking forward to this next year.
Thank you, all of you. And don't you agree now we've got a great slate of officers and trustees? You better sit back down a bit, and we'll go on with the election. Okay, are there any more nominations from the floor? And I will repeat one time that we have one trustee position open. But in general, are there any nominations from the floor?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Now, are all the positions covered by the people that were there, or are there two running for the same position?
No one is running a post.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I move nominations be closed.
Is there a second? Because if there's no second, we need one nomination. We need one nomination, and if we don't have it, it runs empty.
For now.
So what do we need?
We need one of the trustees, the 1-year slot. Bonnie is running for the 1-year slot, but there are 2 positions open. Carrie?
Can you tell us if that person needs to be present in the room?
No, but I'll find out for you.
Well, it depends on if you're positive if that person wants to run. That's a little, we can always fill a position later.
It's always a good trick.
I don't want to go away and come back and be voting president or president. Thanks, Bonnie.
I just wanted that elaborate.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I can just clarify for you that that the board can add members during the regular year. This is the traditional time to fill all the slots, but if there are openings, the board can do that. And I'm sure the board will be working on filling that one remaining slot very soon.
See, that sounds encouraging. So now I would like to entertain a second to Dave's motion. Thank you. So the motion's been made and seconded that the nominations be closed, so we're moving on. And I can repeat them if you want me to, but I would like to ask, Marcy? I guess I am going to ask for a motion to accept the slate of officers and trustees. Pardon?
Yes, I will make that motion.
Very good. And I need another second. Second. You guys are making it so easy. So the slate of officers the motion has been made and seconded that we approve the slate of officers as stated.
Just a point of order before we go down. If you're not a member of the Historical Society, you cannot vote. Is everyone in the room a member, or is there someone who's not a member?
Does that include new members?
If you
Does it
need
include
to
new
name
members?
new members.
Nice.
So we're going to do this verbally, right? So all those in favor answer by saying yes.
Yes.
And those opposed? And those abstaining would be non-members. Therefore, Marcy, I think the election has been concluded, and we congratulate you and your congratulations, everybody. Thank you for helping.
That was an easy one.
So do you want me to just go?
Okay, so moving on. I mentioned Clay Eels, and his name's been mentioned several times. And as I said, we were finally able to, through a museum assessment project that we did, prioritize our goals and decide that we really needed an executive director. So we hired Clay, and he's been doing a great job. We're very glad to have him. So I would like to now bring Clay up. Clay Eels.
Yay!
We thought he was our videographer.
He's
Well,
actually.
my function today is not really for applause, but it's really for some reflection. Traditionally, and Elliot brought this to our meetings from the very beginning, that at every annual meeting we read the names of and have a moment of silence for those who are members or people close to our organization in one way or another who have passed away during the past year. And so that is my function here right now. And you know, sometimes we have names of folks who are very prominent in the community and prominent in our organization, and some years not. I have 6 names I want you to know, and I won't go into detail about them, but some of you know some of these, or all of them perhaps. But the list for this year, and just a little context, one phrase I love is that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And we do great work, but it is only because of those who came before that allows us to do that. And then soon we will become the giants on whom the future will stand. The names I want to read to you in alphabetical order are Dolores Barnegat, Lucille Bullard, Joyce Entis, Philip Flash, Dorothy Mae Johnson, and Clarinel Young, who was known as Casey Young. And if we can have a moment of silence, just to reflect. And thank you very much. And my next goal is to introduce a present-day giant. He's the only one looking around the room. No, it's really an honor. I mean, this he set a record in terms of the percentage of vote in favor of him in this current election. Of course, it helps if you're unopposed. And that itself is a sign of somebody who is doing a terrific job of representing the community. Joe McDermott has been around in West Seattle forever. What, was it 78 years? He's looking great. And he knows West Seattle through and through like nobody else. He represents District 8 of the King County Council right now, but you also may know him. Previously, he was a state representative for our area from the 34th District, and who knows where he'll go from here. And some of you may not have realized it, but how many of you have been on the Seattle Underground tour downtown? You may have had Joe as a tour guide, and you'll probably talk a little about that. Growth is a huge issue in our community right now, and we thought that Joe would be a perfect person to talk about West Seattle as it has grown and changed, and perhaps a little prediction into the future. So we came up with this great title, My West Seattle Through the Years. And we're really lucky to have Joe McDermott here. Please give him a warm round of applause. And you can just tell me when to flip the switch.
Clay, I come from the old school. I went to Lafayette Elementary School. Yeah. And the film strip days, when the recording said Bond, and then the student who had the assignment of actually flipping the film strip knew it was time. So, I'll have no problem.
I'll follow your cues.
Would you like a chair, Joe? No. Thanks for this. All right. Bond. In the summer of 1987, I was home from college. I was attending Gonzaga, majoring in history and political science, home for the summer, and at my folks' house in the Apple District, and there's a knock on the door. I go answer the door, and it's I meet somebody I've never met before, campaigning for what turns out to be his first successful campaign for public office, Greg Nichols. Greg is at the door campaigning for the King County Council, and you can advance the slide. That's not the first campaign, but that's a subsequent campaign where I was volunteering with Greg. And I struck up a conversation with him when he was introducing himself about development in West Seattle in 1987. Particularly my concern and awareness about the number of apartments going up on California Avenue at that time, and whether that was going to change the character and the nature of West Seattle in 1987. I'm a fourth generation Seattleite, a third generation West Seattleite. One of my great-grandfathers was born in County Cork, Ireland, and immigrated to North America. And if you want to advance, there we go. There is farmland in County Cork that he left in the 1860s to come to North America first, into Canada, and later into the United States. He retired to Seattle. Worked with the railroad, and actually his last job was in Cle Elum, and retired to Seattle. His son, my grandfather, moved to West Seattle, and my family on that side has been in West Seattle ever since. My grandparents, Emmett and Seal, were married at Holy Rosary Parish, a place in West Seattle that's very important and has long ties in my family. And they weren't married in the building we know today. They weren't married in the building we know today because it wasn't built yet. They were married across the street in what is now the school hall. My parents, however, were married at Holy Rosary in 1965, and in 1996, I believe, 96, 97, my sister and brother-in-law were married at Holy Rosary. We can advance the slide. There's my sister on her wedding day. My sister is a former board member, in fact, a former secretary of the Historical Society. And in one of the perhaps harshest or hardest to accept facets of coming out as being gay myself is the fact that when I was married in 2013, I wasn't married at Holy Rosary. but I was married at St. Paul's Episcopal Church on Lower Queen Anne. You can advance the slide. So there's the extended family, both sides of the family, Michael and I on our wedding day in 2013. I worked my way through high school and college. I like to say I earned my high school movie money and my college beer money by scooping ice cream at Husky Deli. So if you want to advance the slide, I think there are 3 of them. And the next one is Jack and I during a photo shoot for my re-election campaign in 2008. My mother had taught, has been in Catholic education her entire career. She taught at Holy Rosary Elementary School, had taught Jack. So when I went in to introduce myself to Jack and asked if he was hiring that summer, Jack knew who I was. We didn't know each other well, but he knew who I was, and I was able to remind him he was in my mother's 7th grade science class. And in fact, if he didn't hire me, then I would actually tell people that he'd started a fire in my mother's science classroom using a magnifying glass in the sun one day. And so he hired me, and I still tell the story. One of the first summer I was working at Husky, they celebrated their 50th anniversary in business. Herman Miller started the store in 1932, and while it has moved, I believe, twice in its history, it celebrated its 50th year in business the first summer I was working there, and has now celebrated more than 25 years beyond that. So those are moments when you start to make me feel old. If you want to advance to the next 2 slides, to the Admiral Theater. I believe the first movie I saw was at the Admiral Theater. I grew up 2 blocks away. My parents bought the house we live in now a month before I was born. We were in the Admiral District on 41st, just across the street from what I knew as a kid as the Lucky Store, and we now know as Metropolitan Market. The Admiral has changed. You know, originally it was the one large theater, now it's a twin. I'll talk in a few minutes, I'll talk as I wrap it up about adaptive use and new opportunities, and we have one before us for the Admiral as well. But places, as I kind of scatter through remarks today, I hope my point is about the value of places and experiences, and how a place can really ground you. I grew up in West Seattle with strong ties to Huskies, to Holy Rosary, to the Admiral Theater, to Alki Beach, to my elementary school, Lafayette. Really felt grounded. My dad is an only child, my mom is an only sister. My mom has 1 sister, and so my 4 first cousins grew up about a mile away from us. My community was very much West Seattle. I felt like I was from a large family, well-grounded, with a large community surrounding me. I think that's a key part of what West Seattle speaks to people about. And places can be very grounding. The reason I start with talking about a great-grandfather coming from the County Cork is because in 1994, I had occasion to go to Ireland for the first time for a family gathering on that side of the family with my sister and my parents. And for as grounded and surrounded by family as I felt in West Seattle, being in County Cork, visiting the same crossroads, not even a village, it's truly more a crossroads, that my great-grandfather had left. In fact, once he got to North America, he was the 2nd oldest. Once he got to North America, he got a letter that his older brother had died, and therefore the farm would be his. He wrote back and said his life was here now, he wasn't going back. Being at a family gathering with over 100 cousins one night was also profoundly grounding. And I can feel a connection to that place, but I feel that connection so much stronger to West Seattle, to my home. And I think it's important to stop and think about why that is, where those ties are. And that's why I talk about places, but I also think it's about the uniqueness of this place. I hadn't identified it or labeled it until a couple of years ago when Tracy Record of the West Seattle blog was accepting an award at the West Seattle Chamber Breakfast. And she's the one who pointed out something that I'd experienced but never never spoken of or labeled, and that is one of the unique characters of West Seattle is how many independent businesses we have, and how relatively few chain or large conglomerate type stores we have. And I think that's a function of living on a peninsula. And until, in my memory, having drawspan bridges connecting West Seattle to the rest of the city. And we were more of an isolated community. And in some way, even with our high-level bridge that doesn't open anymore, we still are an isolated community in a much larger city with a lot going on for it. But the Admiral Theater is landmarked through the work and support of the Southwest Historical Society. The West Seattle Library, we can go on. It opened in 1910. I grew up, I've told you now, across the street from the Lucky Store, so 2 blocks from the library. The library opened in 1910 at a building cost of $38,344. Some of us pay that much or more on our mortgage in a year now. Interesting to me, another occasion when I can feel old is it was closed for renovation in 1987 with funds approved in a bond in 1984. But it closed again and was renovated a second time as part of the Libraries for All bond measure approved in a measure by the Seattle Library Foundation. And that construction, that renovation was from 2003 to 2004. I went to the reopening in 2004 and was struck by the fact that this was the second time it had been renovated in my recent memory. But it speaks to adaptive reuse, renovation, and the idea that we want to maintain places. The places matter, and we want to maintain them and provide continuing modern use for them. In the library's case, very much continuing as a library, even as how we use a library changes. I walked in today and easily logged in to the Wi-Fi at a Seattle Public Library. When I was a kid going to the Admiral Library, that wasn't something we worried about. We went and used the card catalog. Now you go in and can have computer access. So how buildings are used, what we're using them for, what their mission is, might evolve, but not change. And I think that's what we want to be thinking about as a community and as a historical society as well. One experience I had in junior high at the library is one summer I was hanging out there a bit and met the children's librarian, and she roped us into, I read a couple books by an author, Snyder, Zilpha Keatley Snyder, and she roped us into putting on a play, actually, based on one of the novels, The Egypt Game, that Snyder had written. And so we did the play that summer at the library, and then that fall, the author was in Seattle visiting, and she got the author to actually come to the West Seattle Library, and I got to meet the author and hear her talk. Something I do now, go hear authors speak as an adult, is something I was introduced to at the West Seattle Library, and find a continuing connection. What about the future? How do we make sure that we're tying buildings and places into current use and not just preserving something because it's old? I think we want to be authentic about how we do that and not save something for the sake of saving it, but make sure we understand why we're doing that and for what use. Adaptive use is, excuse me, it's a new laptop. I'm trying to scroll as I go. It's working now. But we want to honor our past and carry forward that new experience. Adaptive use or adaptive reuse is using an old building or an old site repurposed for a new purpose. It's a tangible and immediate way of experiencing our past while embracing our future and moving forward, not preserving something simply for the sake of that preservation. It allows an underutilized facility, building, to be used to a fuller advantage, and it can really be a catalyst for reigniting a neighborhood or a community. It can also increase property values around it, and reusing an existing building can have a better return on investment than building a new building itself. It's the original green building to reuse an existing building rather than tear down and rebuild. So if we can advance, one example is the Dakota Place Park, a substation built in 1930 for Puget Sound Power and Light, and later acquired in 1950 by Seattle City Light. Used as a substation, I was familiar with it because you know it on the corner of California and Dakota, but around the corner at Dakota and 44th, one house off the corner is where my only aunt lives. I was going to say it's the only place she's lived in my lifetime, but that would be a lie. She's lived in one other house in my lifetime, but I don't remember it. And so I grew up playing with my cousins in her backyard and across the alley in the field next door to, immediately adjacent to what is now Dakota Place Park. The city has re-engineered the building into a park and community center. And if we can advance the slide, you see some of the features that they were able to preserve the building, the grounds, and one more time play, and the inside. I don't know if any of you ever did a tour right after Parks got it. I understand some people were able to, I didn't. The electrical switching equipment still inside. Here it is renovated as a community center for wedding receptions, meetings, events, whatever. Fantastic space if you've had a chance to visit, wander through. And a really good example, I would cite, of adaptive reuse and preserving with a new purpose and a thoughtful approach to moving forward. I'm having the opportunity at the county council right now to engage in some of that work in arts, culture, historic preservation. I serve as a council member. I serve as a non-voting member of the For Culture Board, King County's Arts and Heritage Organization. And the partnership between For Culture and King County as a whole, we've put together a bond proposal for capital programs for arts, heritage, and preservation activities throughout the county. It was important, some of the proceeds are coming from the early payoff of bonds that were originally in place for the Kingdom, are being paid off early, and so some of the excess revenue is going to For Culture, and they're able to finance their portion of the bonds. King County is adding additional revenue as well, and we're putting out a bond measure of about $28 million. And I expect by the end of the month, the council will take final action. The For Culture Board has taken their final action on recommendations for $20 million. The county is adding some additional funds to that. And by the end of the month, I expect that you will see a proposal finalized for about $28 million countywide. It was really important to For Culture and the county, everyone involved, to make sure that we were reaching across the county and to organizations, large performance halls in Kirkland and the Seattle Opera, KPXB Radio, that are large, maybe are located in downtown Seattle and serve the entire region, but also smaller community organizations across King County and touching communities across the county. Two of those that have applied, received funding, and applied with great support from this organization are the Alki Homestead and the Admiral Theater. If you advance the slide, the Admiral Theater, as you saw earlier and probably know, was originally one large theater. Now you go to it, it's the twin, it's divided into two theaters with the historic murals still on the two outside walls of the theater itself. You walk into that, either one of those two theaters now, and don't you think it's a little cavernous, big? Imagine that being half of the theater. The owners, both the owners and the operators of the Admiral Theater have partnered into a long-term lease and have plans to divide it one more time into 4 theaters, doing so while preserving the murals on the outside of the building and respecting the landmark portions of the building, including the lobby and the murals. So support from Florida Culture and the county to engage in some adaptive reuse at the Admiral Theater. And I want to sing the praises of the Southwest Historical Society for strong support in the application and the work there. And also funding for the Alki Homestead. If I can make one theme, it really is that this place matters. This was the event that the Society was instrumental in speaking out about the need to preserve and protect the Alki Homestead after the fire when it was closed and its future was very uncertain. We now have an owner of the homestead who is committed to preserving it, reopening it, still imagining exactly what the operation will be, expecting that it will be a restaurant, but open to proposals for that, but is actively engaged in renovation. And it gives us an opportunity to talk about place and remember the value of place. Remember that place isn't always going to be the same, but mindful that with some thought about how to use it well and forethought, we can preserve it and have the Alki Homestead a place that we as a community will know and have the opportunity to gather and celebrate as well. So I started talking about answering my parents' door when I was home from college in '87. And I think it's more than a little ironic that how many years later today, I hold the seat that Greg was campaigning for when he knocked on my parents' door. He asked me to intern for him the first summer he was on the council. I interned for the county council for Greg in the summer of '88. And 5 years ago, had the honor of being elected to represent West Seattle and beyond on the county council and get to be involved in things that I'm passionate about, including my West Seattle community, but also arts and heritage as a member of the Florida Culture Board, and I'm currently serving on the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation Board as well, which is a statewide board involved in particularly in historic preservation of properties and locations. So I'm going to end there, just reminding us that place matters. If you have questions, happy to entertain a few questions and conversation, then I'll turn it back over to Marcy for the balance of the meeting. All right, thank you very much, Marcy.
He's not on our board, but he is a member of our advisory council.
Right.
Yeah, established some years ago. So, this next portion of our, and excuse me, I just want to welcome Floribel Key. Floribel is a past board member in Calvin. Hi. Glad to have you here. Sorry to put you on the spotlight. I'd like to turn this meeting now over to my other 3 officers. Tia Hulbert, our newly elected secretary, Mayor Nelson, our newly elected vice president, and Ron Aaron, our staunch and newly re-elected treasurer. Yay! So please welcome them. We're going to have a little presentation, a special presentation to honor our past presidents.
Yeah, so we wanted to honor our past presidents. Judy Bentley, we're going to start with. She's not here today, but she's. I'd like to honor her. Judy Bentley has done a ton of work for this historical society. Personally, she is who inspired me to become a historian and to actually follow in doing preservation work for our community. She was getting the advisory council. She started that in 2008, helped get the leadership going for getting that approved to have the advisory council for individuals wishing to serve as an advisory capacity with expertise in areas of fundraising, heritage, organizations, financial administration, investment, and relationships with business and government agencies. She also led the MAP program, which is the museum assessment program done by the American Alliance of Museums, AAM. And that program continues to help the society and the museum meet national standards and strengthen operations and plan for future needs. And I believe that's what brought staff positions such as that we could get Clay and others involved. She's worked on many exhibits she helped organize exhibits for our Log House Museum, including the Telling Our West Side Stories, that she led the campaign to put that together, which we are still benefiting from today and will be for a good amount of time. Developing exhibits is a very, very, it's a difficult job, and being able to also bring in oral histories and collaborate with the Seattle Public Schools and the Seattle Parks to be able to gather these stories. And it's been an amazing exhibit to have at the Log House, and I was able to help work on that too. That was a wonderful exhibit. She's also established the first endowment fund, cleaned up and organized the annex, and did a bunch of the paperwork, filing, getting that going. That's a huge thing. And having studied under her and seen how she gathers the history of our community, especially in places like Delridge and Riverside, the Youngstown area that is not necessarily always represented. It's really inspiring. And I also learned from her the art of oral history. I'm leading the oral history program at the Museum of Flight. We will be celebrating the Boeing Centennial next year, and West Seattle being kind of the bedroom of Boeing from the very beginning. Of course, the Museum of Flight has the Boeing's Red Barn, the first factory that was on our side of the Duwamish River, and then moved across. It's been wonderful to be a part of that group and be able to start work in helping to tell that West Side story also. So yeah, Judy's.
Carol Vincent served as our president for a long time in the mid-90s. And is known, I mean, the Admiral Theater landmark designation, securing the log house and guiding that whole process is huge. Shepherding that, I can't imagine. But that's a couple of biggies, but just not as only as president. Carol's footprints are everywhere. Carol she's just generously donated her time to every aspect of our society and our organization. And we're really grateful that she's still doing it, no matter in what capacity. But I have it on good sources that the one thing she hasn't done is serve as treasurer. which is my role. And I just wanted to thank you, Carol, for your very kind encouragement as I waded into this. it's really meant a lot. And that, you know, it's just, you know, it's kind of special. If any of you have worked with Carol before, or, you know, met her, she just kind of slide up to you and say, hey, good job, you know. I really, you know, single people out, so that's special. And thanks for your ongoing dedication to our community.
Well, as a lot of you know, I really wanted this tribute to occur this year. And I was looking back at some minutes from 7 years ago when Andrea Mercado was showing a slideshow. And all council presidents and the current president and everybody was popping in, and there was a conversation about those slides and some of the things that people have done. And so I'm going to talk just a moment about Marilee. Really, Marilee Hagan, just to introduce her a bit, which everybody already knows her anyway. But then she is going to talk to us today and tell us some of the important ways that she was able to reach out into the community, how she became a member, and sort of just brought the community right in to the involvement in developing the Log House project. So Marilee's been with the society from the beginning. She started, okay, Clay's going to dispute that a little bit because he did reach out to Marilee, just as he reached out to Carol as well, right, for their involvement in the Southwest Seattle Historical Society. But she was there working as a realtor during those years. She'd been a realtor, I think, 32 years, she said. And lucky for this community and all of us, you showed such an interest in these historic homes and these log homes that were disappearing from the community. And I am going to, just one thing is, everybody says about Marilee, she negotiated the purchase of the Log House Museum. There's a tenacity, you know, all of our presidents are tenacious. If there's something you learn about a personality, that is what you've got to be. You know, really willing and devoted. But I just wanted to bring to you all what Joanne Mraz had said about her those 7 years ago when we were watching these slides. She said when Marilee came on the board and wanted to start the museum, we didn't have any money. Members contributed to the project. Marilee found the funds. She made it possible to build the Log House. Members contributed, West Seattle contributed. They eventually got a public service mortgage, which you may or may not choose to talk about. But ultimately, they succeeded in raising $750,000 to purchase and reconstruct the Log House so that we have this remarkable museum today, a program and a place that marks the birthplace of Seattle. Significant not just to this community, but to the entire city. And your story of outreach is just an incredible one. And I mean, both of your work is incredible. You may decide that you want to interject as well, Carol, a bit. But what I really want to do is thank you for all your work. Oh, and I want to let the audience know so that when the museum opened, that was Carol Vincent, who was the president, and signed the purchase paperwork, right? The museum before it opened, when you purchased it. Then you were president when you signed the closing papers, and Arlene Wade was president when you opened the doors to the museum. And it's just a remarkable gift that you've given us all, and I thank you very much. So I hope you'll come up.
I know I have a very small voice, and I'll try to talk as long as I can. What I want to talk to you about today is ways to bring new people in. I got involved with the society because Clay came to me to ask me to look up title information on houses they were going to have a home to. And I wasn't even a member of the society for several years after that. And then one year I heard they weren't going to do it. I called Clay and I said, why aren't you looking for information? He says, oh, you're not going to do the home tour this year. Nobody wants to do it. So I went to the board meeting and I said, I'll do it. And they gave me, I think it was $200 to pay for whatever we needed. And I went outside the society, this is the important one, and chose people for my committee. Some of them became very involved. One of them was the artist that did our poster. He did the poster that has the log house door on the front of it. Did a couple others for us. And one was a friend who was very good at collecting money, and she did a great job. And all friends, and Irma Schwartz was on the committee. But by going outside the committee, it did two things. It brought new people in, and it gave the board a break because they were burned out. Every time you do something, the board doesn't have to be the committee. Assign one person on the board as the chairman and let them go to membership or outside the membership to set up a committee. And it works really well. As far as the log house, I grew up on Alki. When I was going to school down there were 8 long buildings in that area. By the time we bought the log house, there were 3 left. The homestead, our log house, and the house at Seaview Hall on 59 Carroll. When I heard that the log house we had was going to be sold, I said, we have got to stop this. And the current owner did not want it to be torn down. The builder made him an offer. He said, no, I don't want it to be torn down. The builder said, well, we'll put it on a barge and take it to Vashon Island. And we said, no, that's not a good idea. So the owner lowered the price for us, agreed to hold it for a year, give us time to get the money, and was in favor of what we were doing. It just happened to coincide with the Metro mitigation loan that the city was offering, was the other one that offered us $500,000, put to a vote by the community. We campaigned so hard, I can't begin to tell you. First place was Green Space, which is the space along Jacobs Hole, was purchased for $200,000. We came in second place by 10 votes out of 90,000 plus. Third place was Alki Playground at Alki School. So we had the opportunity to get the full purchase price, which was $190,000. The appraiser that the city sent out to appraise the building used that little tiny building house across the street from the front of the museum, which is on a very small lot, a small house, as the comp to figure out the price. And he came back and said it was only worth $170,000. So we heard that King County Council had some money to give to a project like this. So Carol and I went out and spoke to their meeting. Carol did most of the speaking. And they said, well, we have $20,000, but we don't want to give it all to you. If you can go out in 3 weeks and come up with $5,000, we will give you the other 15. 3 days later, we had and all the way home from that meeting, I was driving Carol's with me, and about every 5 miles she goes, yes! We worked very hard. Arlene and I gave so many speeches to every community group in West Seattle and beyond, and collected money, some large checks from individuals. Most of it was just small checks from small groups. I gave that speech so many times I could do it in my sleep. But it worked out in the end, and by the time we opened we had $750,000 into the building that was paid.
I love this image of you and Carol driving around all of this fundraising. And you had a story about being with Elliot Howden, that you were his chauffeur. That's really interesting. So it's a very small token, but thank you both for your service. And Clay is going to come and talk to us now. Do you need somebody to man the camera or?
No, I don't know that I'm going to talk, but I just thought a good way to end the meeting would be to show the video that we played at the gala. And
So from 1984, when the Southwest Seattle Historical Society was founded, to 1997, when the museum opened, to today, we've grown. We have lots of things that we still want to do, and we need a lot of help from all of you in the room and all of your friends and families and neighbors. Our community just is a very special place. It's very spiritual, as Joe mentioned. Tia talks about, this is the birthplace of Seattle, and we really, really do cherish that, and we just need to keep spreading the word. So I hope you all enjoyed the film. Thank you for coming. We've got the room for the rest of the afternoon, so please enjoy some snacks and socialize. Anyone have any announcements or any questions? Just something you want to say? Dorothy?
Marcy, for those who might not know, I think it's a fitting time to mention the time that you, as our current president and willingly serving now for the third year in a row as president, lived in that building. I think you should tell us a little bit.
All right. Does anybody not know this story? I feel like I tell it all the time. Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, when I was a young girl, my family, we lived on Beacon Hill, and we would come over to Alki for the summers. My mother moved from Oklahoma with her mother, my grandmother, and they had a little apartment on Beach Drive. But then moved to Queen Anne, so they would come over, and we would bring company here because who wouldn't? It's a beautiful place. The beach is fabulous. You can get clams and I don't know if you got crabs at the time, but fish, all kinds of things. So, and we would come over on Sunday drives. So one Sunday we're driving along, and my mom asked my dad to slow down a little bit, and they're kind of driving by this log house. And my mom says, "Hey, how would you kids like to live there?" And we went, "Wow, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool." Well, they'd already bought it. Parents don't tell kids everything, right? So they already bought it, and we were like, "Oh my God, that's so great." Well, it was springtime, and we had to finish going to school. I was in Van Asselt Elementary, and I think my sister was in her junior year at Franklin or Cleveland. But so we had to commute back and forth for school. But then we had that first summer in 1959. Wow. That was the coolest thing, to live in that house that became a museum and be able to be 1 block from the beach, and then for grade school it was going to be 2 blocks from Alki Elementary. And we knew that it had a connection to Fur Lodge because it looked exactly like Fur Lodge. The one picture, you can see it off to the right, and that was before it was moved to its current location. So we knew that there was a big connection. We really didn't know the history. And the owner at the time, Doris Nelson, who was such a character, she was great. She really didn't know the history too much herself, I don't think, or wasn't concerned with it, and didn't seem to want to. Anyway, she was a restaurateur, she ran her business very well. But at any rate, we used to say, this is a barn, kids, we grew up in a barn. It was really nice, it was a carriage house, so, but we used to say, gosh, this place ought to be a museum. And so many, many years later, in the mid-90s, I had a friend who also grew up across the street, at least until they moved to Olympia, who was working for an attorney who was volunteering. And I'm sorry I don't remember that attorney's name, but he was volunteering at the time somehow. I'm not sure. Anyway, her name was Peggy. And she called me up one day. She said, "Oh my God, we got to get involved. The house is going to be a museum." Because she had heard this. So we kind of went around, snooped around, and we met Arlene Wade, we met other people. My 2 sisters and I came to the founding of the the dedication before the restoration began. And I became a volunteer after that. And I left West Seattle in about 1972, 73. My mom sold the house, so I really have never moved back to West Seattle, but that's my deep connection. And even though I don't live here, I too, when I come to West Seattle, and especially Alpine, I know it's a very spiritual place for me, and I don't want to leave. But I do like my house better. I've been there. But
Can you take us on a quick oral tour of the museum when it was your home?
well, that's pretty easy, because the downstairs looks almost exactly the same. You walk in the front door, there wasn't a ramp, there was just the porch was closed, and the courtyard was a grassy yard with a big, beautiful locust tree, which was planted by my folks. But so you walked in and you were in the living room, big fireplace there, and you know, you had the two little niches on both sides of the fireplace. One kind of had a desk and the TV area, and then on the other side was the dining room table. And then right now, you actually, well, you can go upstairs if you turn right, you can go right upstairs, or you can go into the gallery. Well, the gallery wasn't a gallery, it was a kitchen. So there was a wall there and a little closet. So you access the kitchen by going straight ahead and just kitty corner. There's a corner cabinet that's, what is it, triangular. And behind that cabinet used to be a swinging door, and that's how you access the kitchen. So there's moved around that whole backside and little half where the gallery is, the video, well, it was the video gallery, it's not anymore, the small gallery. That whole wall had to be replaced, and how many have seen that restoration film with David Rogers and the Kitchen Museum? Well, that's, if you haven't seen it, it's fun. I mean, I like that too. But that whole section had to be replaced in order to, because it was a mess. But, so the doors moved a little bit, but there was a little bathroom in the little half bath down there, and then kind of a lean-to enclosed porch. So basically the same. Upstairs there's 3 main rooms now, it used to be 4, because the bathroom was much smaller, the museum didn't need a bathtub, so they took the bathtub out. And what used to be a little room for my older brother became part of, and is, I think, the supply room now. So really very little change. So the bedroom that I shared with my sister and the other bedroom that my older sister had, they look exactly the same, except they don't have bedroom furniture in it. It has, you know, artifacts, and one of them is Clay's office, and then the main workroom, of course, is the big room. So it was just a really, really fun place to be, and you know, I have many, many fond memories. We lived there about 14 years. Thank you. Enjoy it, please, and we hope to get many new members this year with the help of our membership committee, and really appreciate you being here too. Thank you. And so there is lots of food: cake, cookies, gluten and non-gluten things, coffee, tea, you know, apple juice, something, water. So please enjoy. Thank you all.